What's up? It's Owen. I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever been staring at somebody who you admire and notice how you're always caught up in getting their approval? Whenever they make a joke, you laugh at that joke a little bit too quickly. They say, let's go somewhere, and you wanna go with them. Whenever they have an opinion of you, you're sitting there in bated breath, wondering what their opinion is. What if I were to say right now, you know what my opinion of you is? You know what I think is cool? Imagine that I said that to you right now. Would you be indifferent to it? Or would you be hanging on bated breath? If I said, let's go over there, would you kind of jump up and would you go quickly? Or would you not really care and stay in your own flow? This basic question that I'm asking, it comes from a simple rule in social dynamics, which is this. In any social interaction, there's one person who's reacting more to the other person than that person is reacting to them. Let me say that again. In any social interaction, there's one person reacting more to the other person than that person is reacting to them. Now, to be the more attractive person, you want to be the grounding energy in that dynamic, or at very least, if you're equal, because that can happen. That's actually pretty beautiful when that happens. You still can't be emotionally and energetically leaning on them or kind of reaching towards them more than they're doing it to you. And so what I want to talk about in this video is how to be one of those people who is not emotionally reaching, somebody who is grounded, somebody that others look to for approval. And this is absolutely massive as far as meeting people, networking, dating, creating chemistry and attraction. It is just, I mean, you could argue that it's almost everything. The first way that I'm going to explain this to you is that in order to be that person, you've got to be doubling down continually on yourself. So this is where we've even seen with traditional dating, where it becomes a really, really big problem. Because say that you take somebody out and you're spending money on them and you're really, really invested in that date that you're on and you've been planning it and you're excited about it. Well, now all of a sudden you're really hoping that that other person is going to like it. And as you're investing in it, but they're not really investing much other than a bit of their time. They're sitting there indifferent, and you're sitting there thinking of things to say, how to impress them, how to make them like you. And by the way, guess what? That person who you're on a date with may well be texting that other wonderful human being who they are probably going to be meeting up with later that night. Like, this will happen to you. If you're reacting too much with your date, they may well be texting me. They may well be texting some other person who's competing with you. And why? Because they have your validation. Now, what's going on there? Well, like I said, in any social interaction, there's one person reacting more. And what that means is that validation can be thought of almost like a food. So if you're just satiating them and giving them all the validation, then, you know, all the social approval, what winds up happening is they don't need any more from you. Imagine right now if I just start feeding you and feeding you, giving you food, you don't want any more food. I have over-validated you. I've given you everything that you want. So therefore, you're over it. You're over me. You've had everything that I have to offer. Now, this is a very, very bizarre part of human nature, isn't it? Why is it that we don't just appreciate the people who give us more? Why don't we value the people that are contributing more? Well, it's simple. Our DNA is designed to optimize. If you're already getting what you need from one person, you've got all of it already, well, what's going to happen now? You're going to want to get it from other people. And so I've seen this where I'll be sitting back at my house and one of my friends will bring over all these different people. And my friend has been kind of pumping them up to get them back to my house, but then they'll ditch my friend and talk to me even though he did all the work to get them there. Because he's overly validated them to get them there by being a dancing monkey entertaining them. And I'm just laying back doing nothing, and now they start chasing my validation. In fact, if I want my friend to come out okay in this equation, I will probably have to over-validate them to turn their attention back to my friend. This is like human beings are like fish with a little lure chasing for validation. That being the case, where does validation come from? It's what I said. It is who's reacting more. You can see this in these basic little moments where maybe they move a bit and you kind of turn into them in this very subtle way to chase down their attention, their approval. Maybe they'll crack some little joke, and rather than just kind of saying it in your own groundedness, you wind up laughing a little bit too much at their joke. You're kind of following their opinion a little bit too much. It's all just being oriented around them. Rather than you being your own point of orientation, you are now orienting around them. Let me say that again. You have to be the source of orientation. It has to be your mental movie. You have to be the hero in your movie. Say that with me. I am the hero in my own movie. You've got to be experiencing the movie where your selective focus, in many videos you've heard me call that RAS, reticular activation system, your selective focus is oriented within yourself. You're looking through your movie. It's like, right now if I'm looking around and I'm just looking at the waves, I'm looking at the hills, I'm feeling the dirt under my feet, I'm enjoying my speaking, that's gonna be me as the hero of my own movie. But what if I switch that around to get your approval? And as I'm speaking to you right now, I'm energetically leaning into the camera. So, let's contrast it. Right now, as I'm speaking, I'm feeling my hand movements. I'm feeling my chest breathing in air. I'm feeling my voice projecting. I can feel the energy in my own body. I can feel the energy in the sand. I'm really just enjoying being me. But like I said, to be clear here, what if I'm jumping into the camera going, what do they think? What's their opinion of this? Oh, do you like it? And it's gonna change who I'm speaking to you. I'm not gonna be an effective public speaker. Every word that I say, I'm gonna say something and go, huh? Or maybe I'm gonna kind of overly laugh at the joke like, yeah, and then someone's reacting more, haha. And immediately what's gonna happen when I do that is you know that I need your approval. And you're gonna turn the video off. I mean, to be fair, people will turn off the video no matter what you do. But you see the idea that I'm saying. You can't be an effective public speaker when you're seeking reaction. It has to be your own mental movie. Otherwise, the people get validated, and essentially you just fed them all the food and they're done the meal. It's over. So, as we discussed, the way that you do this is by not reacting. You have to be centered in your own movie. So, let's move next to some how-to as far as making it where you're not reacting to the other person. And the first thing I'm gonna tell you is, the secret to this is not trying to contain your reactions. This is really an inner confidence issue and a lifestyle issue. Trying to contain inner reactions would be like stuffing that. It'd almost be like, hi, what's up? Oh, turn my butt. It's like a weird robot. There's a word called the uncanny valley, where somebody looks just a little bit off, and people start to feel physically sick when you do that. So if you start showing signs of you trying to contain your reaction, it's gonna move into that uncanny valley aspect where people will just feel physically sick from you. You cannot beat this with just a behavioral change. You can't just beat this with a technique. This has to be something that you beat by changing what's going on inside of yourself. So the first way that I'd say to get around this, as far as practical tips, is getting present to the moment. If you've never heard of the idea of being present to the moment, I would encourage you to read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And what that book explains is that if you're not thinking too much in the future and you're not ruminating too much on the past, you will be grounded in the present moment. That presence will give you this vibe that you're unmovable, that you're in your mental movie. It will actually change that orientation to be around yourself, which is so, so powerful. So any amount of meditation that you can do, any amount of work to get out of your head and into the present moment, that is gonna make you very, very grounded. Now the second one is what I'd call a positive life. And this is something you have to build out in the outside world. So the first one, that's an interchange. Getting present to the moment makes you very grounded. The second one though is having a lot of friends, building out your peer group. Let's be honest, if you knew right now that you knew hundreds of people and there was never really any urgency to meet somebody new, it wasn't super duper important, how much more confident would that make you? How much more grounded would you be? Any individual who you're talking to, you don't need them. So you're not gonna be having that intense emotional reaction. If we wanna even get into the biology of this, most likely the reason why we are attracted so much to people that don't have reaction is because it's actually a social subcommunication that they're very popular or even powerful. It's a sign that they have backup. When you're reacting too much, it basically looks like you don't have a lot of options, you're in scarcity, and people flee scarcity. So you've gotta be thinking about how you design your life and surrounding yourself with both friends of the same sex, opposite sex, like real friends, not just people you're dating, real friends. You wanna have people who you're seeing casually and having fun, intimate, casual relationships with, whatever that means to you, whatever works for you in that framework, whatever feeds you, could be anything. Everybody's different with that. You wanna have it where you have hobbies, purpose, things that you're passionate about. If you have a great purpose, that is gonna make such a difference in the way that you're reacting to people, because what's gonna happen is Whenever you're attracted to somebody or want their approval or want to network them or make friends, what winds up happening is that your purpose is a bigger deal. Their approval to you is not really all that important to your larger life situation. So you're not going to react. If your main goal in life is to get one person's approval, that could be your romantic partner, what's that going to do to their attraction for you? It's going to kill it. That's proven. It's going to kill it because you need them to react. You need them. It's going to kill you. You're overstuffing them with validation. And some people, again, will try to remove over-validating by maybe teasing the person. And that can be a playful way of doing it, right? Whenever you tease somebody playfully, it kind of playfully pulls away in a flirtatious manner a little bit of validation to where they will chase you for validation. That's sort of a little trick to do it. But that only lasts for just a brief moment. It's so short-lived. And if you haven't solved this, then you're gonna have to tease and tease and tease and tease just to be able to hold someone's attention. But by grounding yourself in presence and a positive life and a larger purpose, what winds up happening is that same vibe that you get from teasing will actually translate to being a permanent state of affairs, which is so powerful. Now, understand that when you have this down, everything just works. Everything works. When you go to start a conversation, people can feel you don't need anything. In almost all cases, they open up and they love you. Say that you tease them. You're like, oh, no, shh. If you need something, you're like, no, shh. They're like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. But when it's grounded, shh. They start laughing uncontrollably because they can feel that it's grounded. And the more grounded that you are in your own validation, the more centered that you are as you being the hero of your own mental movie, you can actually tease them more and more. You can be a little bit more outlandish. And the reason why is because it sells it well. When you're reacting to the other person, it's not selling it well. So understand that even any ideas that you'd have about certain funny things that you'd say, maybe you read something on the internet that'd be a funny thing to say, that's not even gonna be effective if you're not grounded. You've gotta be grounded. So in conclusion, your main job to become more attractive is basically just blunting neediness, blunting the desire and hunger, this overwhelming hunger for validation. Your goal to become more attractive is to become more centered in yourself. And anything that you can do, whether it's inner practices of trauma release, meditation, or just looking at your beliefs about yourself, your connectedness to nature, being able to, sounds crazy, but being able to walk up to a tree and feel the energy, feeling a part of the earth, feeling like you're here for a reason, knowing that you are connected to the whole, even though you're an individual simultaneously, and knowing that that means that you're somebody bigger than the validation of somebody else. All these practices, having some purpose here on earth that centers you, that grounds you. The purpose is not just about making money, although that can help. The purpose is about centering you. It's hard to even be the person energetically and in the vibe that you have and in your reactions that you're capable of being without some purpose. It is so vital. You can't just make another person's validation your purpose. Think when you're out, you need that validation. You walk into a venue, your purpose suddenly becomes get validation. Get validation. You're gonna start repelling everybody. It just destroys your attractiveness. It's not a good look at all. So everything that you're doing has to be numbing that and getting it to where instead of needing and feeding from external validation, which is so up and down because one minute you have it, another minute you don't, drives you crazy, instead it is something that you built from within yourself. And really, you build it within yourself, like I said, about as far as internal practices, but also there are little things that you can do to distribute the distribution of validation in many little pockets, such as making a ton of friends or having a purpose, because now at least it's distributed and all your eggs aren't in one basket, and there's many, many things that could validate you. So again, you wanna make it central as far as your self-concept, as far as doing trauma release, energy work, presence work, of course, but also you can actually rely on validation, but you just wanna distribute it to many places. Once you do this, as I said, everything works, everything just works. You walk up to someone, you start a conversation, it hooks. You say something a little bit outlandish, no. They're like, I love you, they go crazy. Maybe you look at them deep in the eye, you lean in a little bit, and they lean right back up into you. They desire you. And the reason why is because you're not looking to them for that need, with that hunger. And when they feel that you're genuine like that, rather than feeling like you're trying to take something from them and they'll immediately say, oh, I don't like you, they feel like you're giving them something. Ultimately, at its core, what we're talking about is offering value. Whatever you need, whenever you're hungry, whenever you're thirsty, energetically, emotionally, for that food of validation, because you haven't handled it yourself, you are lowering your power. But as you cultivate that validation in yourself from your purpose, getting present, creating a positive life, feeling that connectedness to your larger purpose and that larger soul aspect of being on this earth, when you have that, you are just vibrant. You are the center of energy. People look to you with awe, love you, and feel attracted to you and want to do things with you. They want you to be a part of what they do. And that's a beautiful thing. So to wrap up, ultimately, make the decision today to get into nature, maybe places like this. Here in Hawaii, I'm on the West Shore, Yokohama Beach. Enjoy your life. Take the time to smell the roses. Take the time to cultivate an inner practice. Take the time to build a life that you're so proud of. And as you do that, and you feel grounded, you feel that you are the hero of your own movie, then you can take your skills as far as meeting people, starting conversations, being funny, leading the vibe, dictating the vibe, all that. Moving people to better, cooler, more fun locations. Going into situations where it's just you and somebody else and anything could happen in that situation. They're gonna feel that you're offering value and it's gonna increase your inner power by 1,000% or more. This is the beauty of learning social skills, and ultimately is you cultivating your foundation. Very simple. As we said, in any social interaction, one person reacts more to the other person than that person reacts to them. What have you done to build a foundation where people are loving you and reacting to you? I absolutely know that you can build this. I am so confident, and I'm so excited for you to build it, because I know that when I meet you in person, I'm gonna feel that grounded energy coming from you, emanating value out towards me, and we're gonna meet right in the middle in presence and share that positive vibe. So I'm gonna wrap up, probably stay here and enjoy the beach, and I'm very excited to be back with more and talk to you soon. Peace. Let me ask you a question. What are you doing here? Your life is not remotely what you think it is. You are not remotely who you think you are. You have very little idea of what you're doing here. And most of the thoughts in your mind are socially conditioned. They're implanted there by other people who have an agenda that is not in alignment with yours. You're sitting here breathing, listening, getting different ambitions and desires, and yet there's no center that is dictating these. These are being implanted within you from outside or even from your biology, and there's very little inside of you that is awake or proactive or fundamentally that is you. So what I'd like to do is explain today how in dating and attraction, this concept is gonna really change your experience as far as getting better at it, getting better with meeting new people, with networking, because this concept in my journey was absolutely everything. And I'll start off with some simple stories. So in all of my social progress, especially in dating, what I found was that throughout the year, I'd meet different people, and most of those people, I enjoyed their company, but it wasn't really a big deal. But sometimes what would happen is I'd meet somebody who was really special to me. And for that reason, I would really wish that that person would get a lot deeper into my life. Maybe I'd wish that this person would be my romantic partner, or become a business partner, or become somebody who I could network with, somebody who I looked up to, somebody who I really cared about. And for whatever reason, I would almost always goof it up. I could remember working on my dating, and I'd meet somebody new every night on this crazy run, having all these wild adventures. But then I'd meet that one person that I really like, and I would act so weird, I'd wind up pushing them away. I think that if you're going out actively and you're meeting a ton of new people, you're probably doing the same thing. And in my experience, what working on dating and meeting people and attraction really results in is a lot of very powerful emotional reactions that you're gonna go through along a journey. And during that journey, it's really gonna give you a lot of turmoil. It's gonna give you a lot of pain, because you're gonna have what you want, and it's so close you can taste it, and then you wind up losing it. And this seems to happen again and again and again. I remember in one year, it was around 2004, I'd been working on this for about 2 years. I managed to alienate 3 different people who I was so into. I just pushed them away. One time I watched this person running off with someone else. Another time, I found them cheating on me. Another time, I saw the person I really like just being piggybacked away by somebody else, and that I was being lied to. I mean, it was crazy. They were saying to me, I really like you, and they were being piggybacked off into the sunset. While I sat there just beside myself, trying to figure out what was going on. Now, at the time when I'd have these types of experiences, I'm sure you've had them yourself, I was so frustrated, and it would really, really get under my skin. And I remember losing sleep over it, and really making that other person who I was so attracted to my central point of orientation. There was a desire that was there that I really just couldn't turn off. Losing sleep, getting frustrated, and ultimately losing sight of who I am. Now, what if I were to tell you right now that sitting here today, losing those dating opportunities is actually the best thing that ever happened to me? And what if I were to tell you that it would actually terrify me to think about what would happen if I had wound up staying in those situations, or even in relationships, by the way, when maybe I've really, really liked somebody, really, really been attached to somebody, and losing them and just having my guts ripped out. And again, what if I were to tell you that it terrifies me to think what my life would look like if I had stayed in those relationships? I mean, it literally, it makes me tremble to my core at how much less developed I would be as a person, how much less powerful I'd be, how much less happy I'd be, how much more asleep I would be. Do you ever look at people who are married and just see that they're kind of half asleep, and you think, geez, you know, at one point they really loved each other. It must have been so fresh, and now they're just bored of each other, and it's kind of weird and deadening. Well, if you've seen that in marriages, and it doesn't mean that every marriage is like that, I don't think that at all, or that your marriage would have to be like that, but if you've seen that in marriages, you can realize that anytime that you actually don't get what you want, rather than moving towards that kind of dead situation, you're actually moving towards aliveness. Now, here's why that is. In spiritual growth, particularly Eastern philosophy, they'll talk about the underworld. And I may not be totally clear on this, but the idea of it, they say that we're in samsara. It's a world of illusions, right? And we have this kind of Maya world or samsara world of illusions. I've kind of goofed this up, but you know, it's the general idea of it. I've always loved the general concept. I'm not too concerned with the specifics. But what they'd say is in the underworld, there's this realm of the hungry ghosts. And these hungry ghosts would have big, long beaks with big, fat bellies. And no matter what it is that they would eat, it was always too slow to fulfill them. They're not satiated inside of themselves. So right now, if you think about it, how would you describe yourself? Are you somebody who's truly, deeply fulfilled and you could just enjoy being with somebody else just for the fun of it, just for the joy of the experience? Or are you somebody who on some level needs that other person? Are you on some level that hungry ghost looking to others to truly complete your experience of life? Now, you can say to yourself that you're not that hungry ghost and that you're fulfilled, but I would really beg to differ, because really, in my experience, there's sort of a homecoming to this where you get pulled out of yourself and want that other person so badly, become infatuated, and then when you lose them and inevitably drive them away, because it's funny, you can attract almost everybody else, but that one person who you like, you wind up being just a little bit off. You know, we say at any social interaction, there's one person reacting more to the other person, but that person's reacting to them. And when you get attached to that one person, you'll tend to push them away a little bit. It's really, really interesting how this works. It's almost supernatural. You'll push that one person away. And what happens is, as you get pulled out, you lose yourself. And as much as it hurts, inevitably over time as it heals, there's a homecoming back to yourself. And that appreciation of who you are deepens. Then you'll have some fun experiences, maybe some really wild, kinky dates, fun, wild adventures with different people. Who knows what could happen? It's really fun, really novel, really spicy. And then what happens is you get pulled out again with that next person who you really like, or maybe it's just someone who you met that night that you were hoping to run off into the sunset with, whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden, you're pulled out, and it's so painful, and then you get pulled back in. And it's through this process of losing yourself and refining yourself, that you become more cemented in who you are. Generally in life, gain in the physical world means that you will often lose yourself spiritually. But a loss in the physical world often leads to gains spiritually. So when I asked you the question earlier in this video, and I said, do you know who you are? Do you know what you're doing here? Do you know what this is? Understand that when you're infatuated with somebody, or maybe you meet somebody out and you just really want it to work so badly, do realize this is not what it looks like on the surface. In fact, what you're experiencing is a very powerful internal journey. You're moving through the world externally, but you're experiencing an internal journey, and an internal shift that is very, very powerful. And if you're not aware of this context, you can be just pulled into life and never refine yourself. See, whenever we experience a loss, there's a choice. We can get bitter or we can get better. And so when we get pulled out and we get bitter, we go further away from ourselves. We go into victim. We even create an identity as being the biggest victim, the person who was abused the most, the person who lost, the person who was taken advantage of, the person that was mistreated, the person who was left alone, the person that was heartbroken. And you can actually strengthen that identity away from your true identity, the truth of who you are. You create that external identity. But to get better means to let go of that and to come back into yourself and reground yourself in a more powerful way. So as you're moving through this life experience, ultimately what's happening is as you're moving away from yourself in that infatuation or need, whether it's for money, networking, looking a certain way, having a certain type of fame, getting what you want in the physical world and then losing it and coming back to yourself. And then of course, inevitably in this physical world, we want something else. And it takes us away from ourselves and we lose it and brings back to ourselves. And ultimately what will happen is as we move through this process, there will be things that we can begin to enjoy, maybe someone who you're infatuated with or someone who you want to go home with or different fame or money. There'll be things that you'll get, but you'll get to a point where you're ready to receive them and actually to keep them. And the reason why you're ready to keep them is that through the process of gaining and losing over and over, you get to a point where your intention is there. You have a great intention to have that gain in your life, maybe that person in your life, that romantic partner, that wild experience that night, that money, that fame, that trip that you want to go on, whatever it is, that superficial physical world experience. You'll get to the point where you want it very badly. There's a very powerful intention there. Let's even get away from the word very badly. There's a very powerful intention to have it. But even though that intention is there, it is equally matched with a release of that intention. So repeat after me. Have the desire, but then release the desire. See, it's when you have the desire, but it builds and builds and builds and builds, that ultimately you're pulled away from yourself. But when you release it and you come back into yourself, your point of orientation, that beautiful energy body, that present moment awareness, just touching the sand and being aware of that energy moving through your body, breathing the air, hearing the sounds around you, the music of people having fun over there, the waves over here, the sun going down, maybe the sound of my voice right now, the color in my shirt, the color in the video, your breath right now, sitting on a chair, feeling the energy moving from your head to your toes. As you become regrounded in that, well then now you can experience these things, but stay grounded to it. And it is only in my opinion and experience, and I could be wrong, but in my opinion and experience, and I've had more than I ever expect to have in my life, what I've seen is that it's only when I could easily release those things that I keep it. It's when I have that amazing romantic partner who, to be honest, I love that person to death, but I'd be okay to move on by myself. It's effortless to keep them with me, effortless. When it comes to financial achievement, if I don't need it, it just becomes a lot easier. And I'm certainly not perfect with that, but I've improved a great deal. And it's in that position that I'll see that I can keep it. But inevitably when I need it, in my experience, what's happened is it creates a neediness, a reaction to it, a pendulum to it, and a toxic energy circuit to it, a low vibration energy circuit to it of need, where inevitably it will be pulled away. And so for so many years, I've coached people on dating, and I'll take them out and I'll see them having some beautiful experience meeting somebody, and then they begin to need it. And then that person runs off with somebody else. The person they like runs off with somebody else. It's crazy. And you see them come back completely flustered, completely exaggerated, and just, it looks like they're emotionally beaten up. And I say, listen, you don't understand. The universe doesn't give you what you want. The universe gives you what you need. Or maybe more accurately, the universe does give you what you want, but not in the way that you want. I've had so many experiences like that. Simple one for me, I always wish that I didn't need approval anymore. And I wish that I could wake up by magic and not need other people's approval, that I didn't care what they think. Well, I was given that experience. The way that I got it was by horrible representations in the media, in books, more negative feedback than almost anybody I know. And in getting that negative feedback and then still coming out of it okay, and maybe even what you might call thriving, what I found was it's actually okay. It's okay to get negative feedback. And what's funny was I now look at other people who need approval, and it's like, I've been blown up with lack of approval in a multi-million selling book, in the media all over the world, misrepresented, all these different aspects, and I'm just continuing with my life not worrying about it. So if one person doesn't like me, I don't care. I was actually able to beat that need for approval. But the universe didn't give me what I wanted, it gave me what I need. Or rather, it gave me what I wanted, but not in the way that I expected. In the same way, you will meet that incredible person. It's gonna happen. You're gonna have an incredible partner. You're gonna have a wild, kinky, crazy dating life if that's what you want. You're gonna get the money you want, the fame that you want. I believe in you, I truly do. But I believe that it's gonna happen after a period of gain and loss over and over so that you can come back to yourself. And at that point, when you can have the intention, but then release it, that is when you can keep it. Now, as I began this video and I said, you probably don't know who you are or what you're doing here, what insight might this give you as far as what that could be? What are you at your core? Is it this person that is identified in other people liking you or having money or fame or physical objects? Is that what you are? These are fun aspects of life. We're here to have joy. I want you to have these. That's why we're talking about it now. So you can want it, release it, keep it, have it, be it. I want you to get to that point. I think that's beautiful. But ultimately, those things that you gain, you will not carry with you past this level of existence. You will die. This experience will breeze by in a blink. It will breeze by so fast. You have no idea right now. It is so fast, it will breeze by. And you will not carry those things with you. Even your partner. You're not gonna be carrying your partner with you. You're not gonna be carrying the material objects with you. We are one. And come back to that. As you come back to that and you recognize your core essence, that is your rebirth in this lifetime. Rather than having to die to know who you are, you can know who you are in this life. And from that position, going out meeting people means that you're not going to be needy. So from a practical standpoint, because we've just gone a little bit esoteric and out there, you may not even resonate with what I'm saying, and that's awesome if you don't, because I encourage independent thinking, so I think that's awesome. But what you will see on a practical level is that meeting people becomes very easy. There's no need to be nervous. There's no need to have desperation. There's no need to turn anybody off because you're being weird. You're grounded in yourself. And in fact, what happens instead is that people are drawn to you. It becomes a law of attraction, as they say, but not just by thinking I'm looking for a parking spot and then I got it, law of attraction, but going deeper on being an attractive person, having an intent, letting it go, allowing it to come to you, and merging with it. That, to me, is the most powerful type of attraction you can ever have. And if you want to be a master socially and just crush it, if you want to go into a venue and just have the wildest night and tear it apart, have the best night of your life, that kind of magnetic attraction everywhere is invaluable. So this is very powerful, both as far as having an authentic and legitimate experience of life, but from a practical standpoint, it's also just valuable for having a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And from breaking out of this kind of cycle of needing to prove yourself to others, but transcending it, transcending a lot of these crazy needs that you have, and really just taking your life entirely to a different level. Oftentimes we can't solve the problem at the paradigm at which it was created. We want to go to a new paradigm where all those problems are solved automatically. If you're somebody who's 25 right now, you'd probably know how to go back to high school and be super popular. But when you're in high school, it seems like a big deal. Well, you know, maybe you don't. But I'm sure you could very easily if you put your mind to it. Well, in the same way, as far as your dating life, your social life, or any type of success, once you learn this kind of thing, you'll easily go back to it, and it's really not a thing anymore. It's actually very, very easy. And of course that's fun, you're gonna have great experiences and more success, but ultimately the true satisfaction is in finding out who you are, what you're doing here, and beginning to give birth to some kind of proactive force where it's not just a bunch of social conditioning popping into you and you're repeating it like some kind of non-player character, just repeating what you've been fed like you see so many people doing, which is so sad. This world needs to wake up. But what's gonna happen is you're gonna begin to stoke that second awakening, get present to the moment. You're gonna become aware of different energies around you, life as it's around you, joy as it's around you, a subtle texture of life itself that you can merge into. And of course, these other things, they're gonna be fun to have, these material things, but they're gonna handle themselves. That being the case, the next time that you're really caught up on somebody and you've lost sight of that, I hope what this video does is reconnect you to your core. So get present. Begin to wake up. Come back to yourself. We're one. And it's a beautiful experience. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.